The most important part of any baseball experience with your kid is the ride home. Because the ride home is where you have each other's attention, and that's like they're coming down from things, and that's where you can have like meaningful conversations.
That's absolutely true for sports, but I think I think it applies more generally too. Welcome back to Raising Men. Today, I'm joined by my best friend, Jonathan V. Last, or JVL, as he's commonly known. Jonathan Last is the editor of the Bulwark, an online publication focused on preserving freedom and democracy in the U.S. JVL's role is primarily like that of Cassandra of Troy, which is to say that he predicts the future with uncanny accuracy, but nobody listens. JVL, welcome to Raising Men.
Oh, it's so nice of you to have me. You had my boy Mark Hertling here. Now I get to be. It's very, very nice.
Oh, man.
A little nervous about following Mark.
Absolutely.
I would have preferred to open for Mark and not follow him, but that's okay because he's a tough act to follow.
Oh, man. Awesome. No kidding. He is. But today we're going to be talking about something that I know that you know a lot about, which is youth sports. And among everything else that you do, I understand you're also the father of an elite athlete, and you've been plugged into that world from the very beginning.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are levels of elite, right? And there is the level of surefire professional, right? Or Olympic caliber. Then there is the level of like someone who's going to play at the collegiate level and have a shot to go pro.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the level of elite that I'm at. So my oldest, who is 17, will be playing college baseball next year. He is a pitcher. Based on his velocity and spin rate and the number of inches of drop on his curveball, it is possible that he could wind up by his senior year getting drafted, and then like maybe a bounce around. My view, like what would be the perfect outcome for him is you get 2 years of single A ball and then you go to law school.
Yeah,
like that would be amazing, right? That would be winning the lottery. So that's the level of youth athletics that I have been seeing for the last, 12 years or whatever, since we started doing sports stuff together. And my baseline set is that I was a high school and college athlete, a very indifferent one. Very indifferent athlete. I did like a bunch of sports in high school, none of them well. And then I was a rower in college, not especially well. But I've been around some people who have played professionally at those levels. And so I know what that stuff looks like. And I've gotten a real glimpse into the baseball aspect of this stuff, which is different. One of the things you find out as you go through this is that every sport really does have an idiosyncratic pathway. And what is true for baseball is not true for tennis, is not true for track, is not true for hockey. So I'm pretty cognizant of my blind spots here. But that's the level I come to you from. Oh, and also I have 3 other kids who don't do any sports at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they've tried.
You're going to get into that too, because there's a dynamic there. And I had that dynamic with my older brother. I was like you. I kind of played a little bit of sports. In fact, I played less sports than you did. But my older brother was an elite football player and ended up playing in college. Could have had a chance to go pro, I think. And then, it didn't materialize for him. And so, but I wasn't sporty at all. And so there was an interesting dynamic there. And I'm eager to tease that out.
I have gotten I've gotten 2 of my younger 3 to try some team sports, which was very important for me because I wanted them to have the experience of it.
Yeah.
Even if they decided it wasn't for them. Yeah. Because it's just, I don't know, like you try anything once, right?
Yeah.
So.
And I ended up getting into sports at a major level when I turned 30.
I
Oh,
started playing beach volleyball and just absolutely fell in love with it. And I became pretty
fantastic.
good. I ended up marrying a professional beach volleyball player.
You and Karch
And
Karai, right? Are you out there with Randy Stoklos and
so
St.
they
John
were a
Smith
little
and
bit
all those
before my time.
guys?
They were my
Yeah, they're
heroes
older
at
than
the
us.
time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
older than us. Did you grow up watching them? Because those are the
No.
guys I watched in the AVP. Because the AVP used to have a tour stop in my aunt's town on the East Coast side of the tour. And so I would go
Oh,
to those
yeah,
things
okay.
all the time and
Yeah,
love beach volleyball.
yeah.
Yeah, so your
I
wife's a pro
absolutely love that
player?
game. Say again?
Your wife is a pro player?
So she was a pro player. She played,
That's
you know what?
awesome.
She had the exact career path that you just outlined for your boy. She
Oh,
played
yeah.
pro for exactly 2 years and then went to law school.
Is that the dream? It's the best. It's the
That's the
best of
dream.
all
It's the
worlds.
best. And you
Yeah.
know what? And today she has the greatest career. I am so unbelievably proud of her. She has a great career. She is an appellate lawyer here in San Diego and just absolutely loves the work, is tremendously passionate about it, has just a rocket tied to her ass in terms of where her career is going. Um, and I'm a 51-year-old white guy in tech.
Yeah.
It is.
So you're
She's
both living the
waxing
dream.
as I'm waning, and
Yeah.
it's great.
You're both living the dream. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, so let's start with this. What do you see is the purpose of sports in a young man's life? Why do it at all?
Yeah, I mean, so I would maintain that sports properly understood are it's about life and the human condition. And you can learn a lot of really valuable lessons about life and about yourself and about how to grow up and the sort of person you want to be and about what failure looks like, how to manage failure, which is an incredibly important part of growing up and becoming an adult. And about also managing success. And I mean, really, this is going to sound a little macabre.
Hmm.
So I'm sorry, bear with me. But so my oldest, I just call him Flash. It's not his actual Christian name, but it's his show name. So he tore his UCL as a freshman. And it was, he had to have Tommy John, and it was a very tough road for him. And I kept thinking to myself, well, he'll be better prepared if he gets diagnosed with cancer when he's like 40, right?
That
I
is
mean,
the most JVL thing ever.
right. Yeah, but it's the kind of thing where, well, someday having Tommy John surgery is not fun and recovering from it is not fun, but it isn't life threatening.
Yeah.
But it can teach you some of the toughness stuff for dealing with physical injuries and dealing with limitations. I mean, so much of aging is learning to have things taken away from you,
Big time.
right, as you get older. And that's a skill, learning to manage that and to understand that and find other things to give your interest to, right? I mean, you know this, right? When you're 51, you can't do the things that you could do when you were 21. And part of a life well lived is managing that transition and growing in other ways. And so all of this is part of life's rich pageant. And sports has a way of taking these ideas, which are very big and abstract, and concretizing them for kids. And so that's why I'm a huge fan of sports for precisely that reason. It's not the only way to learn about life. You can learn a lot about life from reading books. I think kids should all read as much as their interest sort of allows them to, and that interest should be fostered. But sports is a really good way to get into the life stuff and the life lesson stuff, and especially if you have an adult like a parent or a coach or somebody or grandparent who can guide you around through that and help teach those lessons that sport is imparting to the kids as they're growing up.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've learned as a result of doing this project is that one of the most important aspects of raising excellent men is giving them access to excellent men as role models.
Yeah.
And a coach can be such a powerful role model for good or for bad, right? And
Yeah.
so this is a kind of a default way of getting a good masculine role model in your life as well.
Yeah. If you don't have a father in the home, which, a lot of divorced single moms raising kids, doing the best they can, you can get really lucky. My father-in-law, who's passed away, was like this. So his father died when he was very young. His father died when he was, I think, like 8 years old.
Mm.
And he had a baseball coach in his youth who really like took him under his wing and taught him. I mean, he stayed in touch with this coach from the time he was like 10 or 12 years old until the coach died when my father-in-law was in his 60s. So
Wow.
like this man was in my father's life for 55 years or something like that. And it made a huge difference to him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would say part of if you have kids in sports, no matter what the level, you will have the opportunity to get involved in coaching because teams of all levels always need volunteers and parents to come in and help coach. And I really recommend to parents that at least once you say yes to that because A, it's another way to like get involved in your kid's life and see a different side of them. But B, it's a way for you to maybe be that sort of person for another kid who might need it.
Absolutely. I struggle with that a little bit in as I'm trying to introduce my boy into sports because I find that I have a tremendous amount of ego attached to how he performs. I deep down want I feel like I had an elite athlete nascent in me when I was young that didn't get teased out enough. And I ended up becoming very into sports at a later age, and I don't want that for him. And as just for myself, I want to be the father of an elite whatever, right? And I really struggle with caging that instinct. And what do you think about that? How do you think about that tension there about
So I think
where you
about it
want
a
to be?
lot
Yeah.
because, like, I'm not gonna lie, it is cool to be like, yeah, my kid throws 90.
Yeah.
Like this, it's just like a fun thing. Now it hurts when you go out to play catch with him now, but it is kind of cool. It was weird for me. I mean, he was the best ball player we saw at like every level through like age 16. Like
Okay.
just everywhere we went, every travel. I mean, he was just category difference than the second best kid. And that was cool. I was also very cognizant of whatever psychic payoffs I'm getting from this. They are nice, but they should not be determinative. This is not about me. Um, and I was also very, very keyed into uh, really de emphasizing outcomes and strongly emphasizing process.
Hmm.
Now, that is easier to do with baseball than it is with a lot of other sports, right? Because in baseball, you can say, look, this pitch, this at bat, this inning, this game, none of it matters. You're going to do a 50,000 more of these.
Yeah.
What matters isn't if you strike out or not. What matters is, was your approach at the plate right? you know what matters is how did you conduct yourself after you succeeded or failed. uh, all of those things matter. Does your team win or lose? It's fucking 10-year-old baseball. Who
Yeah.
cares? You're in the tournament game at a weekend tournament. That's great. Is there cash attached to this? And
Right.
so one of my mantras for him was that there are only two reasons to do sports. And this is like a little bit of a lie, but only a little bit. For money or for joy and pleasure and growing. Those are the only two reasons. And so if you're not having fun with it and you're not growing and learning something from it and you're not getting paid for it, well then why bother?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so again, really de-emphasize outcomes. Does not matter what they do on the field. What matters is the process, because that's what the process is, where all the good stuff is, I think, in terms of learning. And another dad said this to me, and his kids wound up playing for like Big Ten baseball schools, and so very, very good. And he said to me, I took this to heart early on, the most important part of any baseball experience with your kid, and really any sports experience with your kid when they're young, is the ride home.
Mm.
Because the ride home is where you have each other's attention, and that's like they're coming down from things, and that's where you can have like meaningful conversations, and the answer is never to say, well, you're supposed to protect on two strikes. Why didn't you protect there? Like they know they're supposed to protect, right? The key is to get to, so what did you learn today? You know,
Yeah.
like that. I would always tell my kid that, you know, he had one mission before every game, which was that when we got in the car afterwards, he was supposed to tell me one thing he learned.
Hmm.
And it could be that he learned how to, you know, his two strike approach to do it better. It could be that he learned that Squeaks, a kid on his team, that his birthday was the next week. Like, you can learn something about your team. Learn something. You
Yeah.
know, come home to me in the car with one new thing that you didn't know when you got out of the car. And that's, you know, if your kid is upset or something, that's a chance to help them realize that it doesn't really matter, the thing that they were upset about. If
Yeah.
your kid is like bursting with pride and triumphal, it's a little bit of an opportunity to say, yeah, no, that is great. That's wonderful. You didn't cure cancer though. You know, like, and it's those car ride homes are sacred spaces. And really, that's again just where all the good stuff is. So that's
I
one of
just
my
love
pieces of advice to parents.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes I mean, that's absolutely true for sports, but I think that goes I think it applies more generally too, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like,
You're
how
coming home from dance practice, ballet
yeah,
practice with your daughter or something. Like, there are
yeah,
the opportunities to do this for all of those things, from theater
yeah.
practice, right? Yeah.
I mean, the thought that comes to mind for that is how much I waste the time I spend in the car with my kids. I could really be doing and maybe that's okay, right? But
Is it wasting though? I mean, it's wasted maybe if they're on their phones, but if you
yeah,
guys
well,
are
that's what I
listening to
mean. You know,
music
they're sitting
together,
on their tablets and I'm
yeah,
listening to a podcast or something. I mean, like we have a separate car ride as opposed to doing something meaningful. I'm
yeah.
wasting the time.
Well,
Yeah.
you can, I mean, again, I'm not going to tell you how to raise your kids, but I always viewed car rides as a chance to indoctrinate my children into what music is the best. And the answer is like the best music is the music that I loved when I was 14.
Yeah.
And so, like, my kids have grown up thinking that Bon Jovi is the greatest musical act of all time. And they can just, like, you know, tick through top 10 Bon Jovi tracks, stuff like that. So, those are, I think, great uses of time for, you know, listening to music together, listening to
Yeah.
books together, doing audiobooks.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to be all like Socratic method.
Sure.
Tell me, son, what did you think of Sophocles? But yeah, car rides
Yeah.
are opportunities to make memories.
Yeah. My son's very first favorite song ever in his life was
Yeah.
Bad Medicine.
I mean, it's classic.
He would
You're doing
one
something
of his
right as a
first
dad.
words was Bad Medicine,
Yeah,
and
it's
that's how he
fantastic.
would ask for the song. I was like, "What do you want to listen to, Lake?" And he'd be like, "Bad Medicine." It was beautiful. I never got into the rest of the Bon Jovi oeuvre though.
Over the
Oeuvre. Yeah, that's yeah.
yeah, so this is we're again, it's all indoctrination. Your kids just, you know, kids just repeat what they hear.
Yeah.
And when so when we moved up to Jersey a few years ago, we took my youngest with us to the closing, you know, where we had to go sit and sign all the paperwork on buying the new house. And we're sitting there and he's, you know, he's like 5 at this point, and the lawyers are there and whatnot, and he's just like chitter chattering with everybody. And, you know, they're like, "Oh, so you're excited to move to New Jersey?" And he's like, "Yes, so excited to move to New Jersey. Really hope that I get to go see Bon Jovi." And they're like, "What?" And he goes, "But of course, I will only see it if they're with the original lineup." Like, what? And then he says, because Richie has left the band recently, and he said it's for personal reasons, but that really means drugs. And the lawyers are looking at like, and they're clear, like, "What are you telling your children at home?" And I was like, he's the fourth. Like, you know, by the time you get to the fourth kid, you're just giving up. You're
That's
like,
right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we kind of had that with even the second kid.
yeah. It gets a little bit more with each one. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
what
is
sport
it
is your kid
possible
starting?
to develop I mean, or desirable or anything? How do you develop the passion for sports? Or is it something that you're just cultivating? There's a plant that's growing in the soil and you're giving it fertilizer and water.
So, obviously everybody's different. Every kid is different. For me with Flash, so when we were living in Virginia, down outside of DC, we had a single A team 2 miles from our house. And so even before we had him, I was at the ballpark all the time because it was I mean, just going to see minor league ball with my wife when we were young and single, well, not single, but, you know, newlywed. It's like, what could be better?
Yeah.
So I started taking him to the ballpark when he was like 1. And we wouldn't go for whole games. We would literally, if it was a Saturday afternoon and he woke up from his nap and there was a day game, we would just drive, it was a 4-minute drive. We'd go in and we'd stay for literally as long as he was interested in it,
Yeah.
which sometimes was like 5 minutes, but the tickets are $7, so who cares, right? And sometimes it'd be for like 45 minutes, and he just loved going to the ballpark. And then as he grew up, he loved baseball, loved watching it and listening to it. And by the time he was 5, and I took him outside to start teaching him how to throw catch just because, and I was not a baseball player. Like this is, I was a basketball, tennis, running guy. Um, just because I thought, well, this is America. Still America. We teach our boys how to play catch in the front yard. Huh, we didn't lose a war. And he loved it. And from about age 5 on, he wanted to be a professional baseball player. And that is the only thing he's ever really thought about.
Wow.
And I didn't do it. And one of the things that I have been really, really conscious of is, and I don't do this anymore, but I did all through like the 10 through 16 years. I would twice a year sit him down and say, hey, it looks like you're having a great time with this. But are you sure you still want to play baseball? Because I just want to make this very, very clear. You're not doing it for me. You are not trapped into this. You are not, it's not like, oh, Dad, you've spent so much money on travel teams and et cetera that I have to keep playing. I was like, as far as I'm concerned, all the resources we've put into baseball have already paid off in making you who you are right now. And those are great. And that makes me very happy. And if you tell me I just want to pick up the clarinet and I really want to learn the clarinet, that's fine. You never have to play baseball again. And every time he looked at me like I was an insane person, I was like, that's fine. That's fine. I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
But, I just want to make sure you don't turn this into a job that you feel like you're getting backed into. And I think that's helpful to do with kids who are on the upper side of the talent spectrum. Because, I've seen this with kids who are not as good, but who, are good, but not like special. Yeah. And you can tell they want to be doing something else. But, they've got a parent and maybe the parent isn't really the one who's invested. Maybe the kids are just perceiving it that way, because, kids are weird. They aren't perfect. I think it helps to make it really explicit and say, look, I want you doing something with your life. I don't want you sitting at home just like scrolling TikTok or something.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter to me what that is. You could be drawing, you could be in the school play, you could be learning guitar. Like I want you to find something that you love and that you're passionate about. Doesn't have to be just because it was baseball when you were 5 years old doesn't mean you're trapped in baseball for forever. So
Yeah. I love that sentiment. That is such a wise way to approach it. And I think that there's this tension between giving them so much freedom that they never actually get to take root, or like being this rigid, hit them over the head with it. Oh, you need to, you need to get to state or get a scholarship, or get into the pros,
yeah.
or else you're not loved, right? And man, that's a tough tension to. It's a tough tension to
It
navigate.
is. It is tough. The hardest tension, I think, is on specialization. So can I just sort of talk at you for a moment here? I don't know how much you know about this, but it used to be the case. If you go back to when we were kids, the guys who wound up going pro were 3-sport athletes in high school, and they would, so you'd be a 3-sport athlete in high school. You would then get your scholarship to go play football or baseball or basketball at whatever school, and then you get drafted. And starting about 25 years ago, that went away, and we went much closer to like the European soccer club model, right? So in Europe, where when you are identified as a very, very elite soccer player young, your entire life is pushed into soccer. And, often you are sent away to a soccer academy, and that is the way it was with tennis in America.
Yeah.
Back in the day. It's the way it has always been with figure skating and gymnastics.
Yeah.
Right. We commit kids very, very young and early. But now the ethos is the same for all sports as it is for like girls gymnastics. Like we commit the kids super, super early to one sport. They've got to play on a bazillion different club teams. The school teams are no longer enough. And there is an aspect of just keeping pace where, even if you don't want to do it, you don't want your kid specializing in a sport early, well, like everybody else is doing it. And so it's like leverage in economics. Once leverage exists and one firm is taking advantage of it, then all firms have to just to stay at par.
Yeah.
So that is like a real thing and a hard thing for parents to manage. And there's no like good outcomes from it, I think. And so you just have to be cognizant that there are trade-offs being made and then work to try to offset and hedge against those.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I've seen, so the girls volleyball, I have a lot of exposure to girls volleyball recently, and I have a lot of friends who played in college and all of that, and they get out of college and they just burned out. They're
Yeah.
done. They do not, or it's like Texas football was that way even when I was growing up.
Yeah, I bet.
I went to college with a guy named Ricky Williams, who was an
The Ricky Williams?
the Ricky Williams, yeah,
Oh, that guy was something else.
unbelievable, unbelievable, unbelievable talent. And yeah, we were in college at the same time, graduated the same year, and he burned out.
Yeah. Left the pros, right?
Yeah.
He just
Like after
left
2
the
years.
pros early. Yeah. Yeah. So that's
It's,
that's one. Another thing that I would say to people is that elite talent is obvious much earlier than you might imagine. Yeah, I think we carry with us this idea like, well, Einstein was a late bloomer, or Michael Jordan didn't make the varsity team in his high school as a sophomore.
right.
And these things are mostly apocryphal. Like Michael Jordan was kept off the varsity team as like an ideological matter by the coach because he didn't want a sophomore. Though he absolutely could have and would have been the best player in his high school team as a sophomore. Most of the time, you can see how good elite athletes are by an incredibly young age. Age 10 at the 12 at the latest.
Yeah.
I mean, I could just give you and by elite, I don't even necessarily mean Olympic level athletes.
Mm.
I mean, like just the people who are going to be good enough to play at the college level.
Yeah.
It's obvious so early. And you got to be really real about this. And I would like, my heart would break a little bit when I would see parents pushing really, really hard on kids at like little league level, and so like, a kid who was the second best player on their little league team. And the parent would be really torqued up about, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And I was just like, this kid is not going to, I mean, maybe this kid could play high school baseball.
Yeah.
Maybe, but maybe not. And why would you put that much pressure on? Like, this is, you gotta, don't
Goes
be
back to the
deluded.
fun or money thing.
Yeah. Fun or money. Right. And, yeah. So this stuff is all, like I said, it's just obvious early. And,
We've had too many sports montages in movies.
Yeah. That is for sure the reality. And I mean, I don't know. My younger daughter ran cross country for a couple seasons. It's like elementary school cross country. The first one of the meets that she was at, I saw a 5th grade girl, and I watched her run about 200 meters, and my eyes fell out of my head. Like, it was category difference.
Yeah.
Between her and everybody else. And that girl was a freshman in high school this year, and she finished 45th in the country.
Oh my gosh.
As a freshman. And she is still not, like, she is not Olympic caliber. She'll run in college. She'll be a Division I college runner. But again, in 5th grade, it takes 15 seconds to look at this kid and say, oh, that's different.
Yeah.
It is it's like watching an alien. It's not like they're 10% or 100% or 150% better. They're like 10,000% better than everybody else around them. And that's what elite athletes look like.
Yeah.
And so if your kid's not at that level, then they're not going to be at that level. And that's
It's
okay.
great. Yeah, actually,
Like
it
it's really
releases them
okay.
from the obligation of
Yes.
having to perform at that level. And guess what? If I'd gotten into volleyball when I was in high school, I would probably still be living on people's couches in Hermosa Beach in California, living on $25,000 a year coaching people, coaching high school kids. Like
Yeah.
that would have been my path in life. I wouldn't have gotten into tech. I wouldn't have been an entrepreneur. I wouldn't have done any of the stuff that I ended up doing. And it was a
Yeah.
blessing.
And you know what? This is, I said this to Flash when he was, like 10 or 12, and he was like talking about going to Cooperstown someday. And I was like, buddy, I want you to understand, even if, even if you play in college and then you get drafted and then it works out, you catch on with a pro team and then you become an all-star and then you are so good that you become a first ballot Hall of Famer, you will have more time of your life to figure out what it is that you want to do to contribute to this world without baseball in it than you will have had with baseball, because you'll be done by 35.
Yeah.
You'll be done by 35. You are probably going to be a productive part of society till you're 75, given the way life expectancy works. So even if all that, more than half your life will have to be dedicated to finding something else that you're passionate about, that you love doing, that can add value for the world. Like, buddy, have some perspective. So these are the things we got to teach our kids, because they're not going to figure it out on their own. To them, thinking about what they're going to be like when they're 40 is like asking them to time travel.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember people putting that on me when I was his age and
Yeah.
being like, that's old. I'm going to be this age forever. Of course, I still feel like I'm 25 or something.
Well, that's the dirty secret, right? Is that we get old, but we don't actually feel old.
That's
We
right.
still feel like we're that kid.
And then we see ourselves in a video and we're like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Whoa. What happened to that guy?
man,
Yeah.
what is my dad doing there?" Well, before I lose you, I really want to drill down into this thing about the non-sports kids. How does it affect them, and how does it affect the way that you think about them and that, and how does that work out?
So somebody who's very wise once told me that every child is born into a different family. And like there's a Heisenberg principle here where, the measuring of the object changes the speed and direction of the object.
Yeah.
And, so you have a kid and then the next kid is born. But the truth is you're not the same parent that the first kid got, because having that kid has changed you. And that is true like at every birth parity. You add another kid, the whole family dynamic changes. And so I try to be cognizant of that and to understand that, A, they're all different. But B, even if they weren't different, they're going to turn out different because they're born into a different family. They're not getting the same scientific experiment. They're not getting the same petri dish. And so I try to present opportunities. When I say the answer is always my wife and I. I'm
Right.
just saying it as I, like it's me. Try to present opportunities. Try to show them as much of the world as you can, right? Through books, through theater, through the arts, through sports, and see what catches their interests,
Yeah.
right? And like my second oldest kid, she has been like, I think she finished reading Jane Austen when she was 11. Like, she made it all the way through. Like she's a very old soul. She loves literature. She would just sit and read. She's better read than I am, and she's like 15.
Wow.
And that's great, and I love that. But we also try to like challenge her a little bit to get outside of her comfort zone and things, because that's important to grow, And she did a season of high school cross country, and she loved it, and she got a lot out of it. But she didn't want to repeat it, and that was fine too. Like I was so proud of her for doing it, and I really do think she made friends with a lot of the girls, and they enjoyed just going out and running together, and she enjoyed being on a team, and she didn't feel like she needed to do it again, and that was also fine.
Yeah.
So you just want them, well, you just want them to be okay. You want everybody to grow up to be okay and to be well-adjusted enough, because life is hard, man. Right?
Mhm.
I mean, the universe is indifferent, and like we will all have bad days, we'll all get laid off from jobs, you have sick kids, you have sick parents. I mean, you know, you get hurt in a car crash. I mean, there's so much out there that the point of all this is just raising them to be the kinds of people who can handle those things and thrive and help and serve others and make the world a little bit better. That's the point of all of it.
Yeah.
And sports is just one of those avenues.
Yeah. I love that sentiment. Now, the last question I always like to ask everybody, and I like to spring it on them. So apologies. But
Okay.
give me one principle that, if there's one principle that every parent listening should think about when raising their kids, what would that principle be?
Uh, I am a huge believer in learning to manage failure, right? So failure can be crushing. It could also be instructive. It can be habitual. It could be, I mean, there's so many ways that failure can affect you. I have always been drawn to baseball because it's a game of failure. If somebody fails 70% of the time at the plate, they go to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And so, you need to learn to manage failing over and over again. And that is one of the gifts that baseball gives the people who play it. At the same time, failure can be really demotivating, right? Like a kid who can never succeed, who can never win, who never gets on the field can get dejected and turned down. And so I one of the things I tell parents when I am giving unsolicited advice is to think about how you teach the kid to manage failure. That is more important ultimately than getting them to succeed. Right. I mean, you feel like, oh, my goal is to get my kid to be the valedictorian or get my kid to be the little league champ. And those things are nice. They can be great and good learning experiences for your children too. Nothing against it. But if you can be mindful of failure and managing failure and teaching your kid to get the good stuff from managing failure and to avoid the bad stuff, right? To learn to turn the page on failure while also learning from it and moving on from it, that will serve them really well in life.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. One of my principles is, excellence is failure.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
you're just failing less and less every time.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time. This was a really powerful conversation for me. It was, like I said, you were one of the inspirations of the show in the
Oh,
very,
it's so
very
kind of
beginning.
you.
And it's really something that's come full circle for me. And I think it forces us to think about what the purpose of sports is in our kids' lives and how it has to do with them and not with us, and how we can responsibly manage those tensions involved. So thank you so much, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. Good luck with your two.
Thank you. And for everybody listening, you can follow JVL's work through the Bulwark and his writing, especially the Triad, where he's trying to save democracy one pinball or watch story at a time. So thank you for listening. And remember, you are a great parent. Raising Men is produced by Phil Hernandez. This episode was edited by Ralph Tolentino.